On the day of my engagement party with Ryan, his sponsored student, Lauren, fell from the upstairs floor. Ryan left immediately, on the spot, leaving me there all alone. He promised he'd come back once he was done. I calmly stayed behind to properly take care of the guests and called Ryan, only to hear Lauren crying on the other end of the line. "Ryan, I'm so sorry for dragging you into this." Ryan gently comforted her, saying, "It's just an engagement party. Life is more important." At that moment, I realized my relationship with Ryan had reached its end. That same night, I packed my bags and went abroad. The next time I saw Ryan was 5 years later. He blocked me at the airport when I returned and grabbed my wrist, questioning me. "So, after avoiding me for 5 years, you've finally come back?" Before I could say a word, a little voice jumped in. "Mommy, this strange man is so rude. I'm gonna tell Daddy so he can beat him up." The guests had already left. I sat still on a stool in the gown I had carefully chosen. My eyes were stinging badly. I blinked a few times and tears started to fall uncontrollably. The makeup I had spent over 3 hours getting done was now completely ruined. My mom, standing nearby, looked a little upset and asked, "Did you get hold of Ryan?" I nodded stiffly. She asked again, "And what did he say?" I forced a smile, but the more I tried, the more my tears came pouring out. I remembered the call I made earlier. I hadn't even spoken when Lauren's sobs came through the phone. "Ryan, it's all my fault. Today's the day you're supposed to get engaged to Emily, and I've messed everything up." Ryan gently consoled her. "It's just an engagement party. What's more important than life? If it doesn't happen today, we'll do it another time. The most important thing right now is for you to focus on recovering." The moment that call ended, I didn't dare to hear anything more. I hung up in a panic. My mom looked at me, her eyes full of disappointment. "He said he wanted to leave and you didn't stop him? What could possibly be more important than his own engagement, that he couldn't even be there?" My dad, noticing how worked up my mom was, quickly pulled her into his arms and whispered words of comfort. Ryan's relatives sat nearby, exchanging awkward glances, no one daring to speak. Just moments ago, the man I had been with for 3 years had walked out of our engagement party for the sake of his sponsored student. I told Ryan, "If you walk out of this engagement party today, then we are officially done." Ryan tried to comfort me with a gentle voice. "Don't be like this, Emily. I'll be back soon. It won't take long." "I mean it," I said. "If you step out of this hotel today, we're over." Ryan looked at me, his voice still calm. "Don't keep threatening to break up. This time, I let you down. But when I come back, I'll give you an even grander engagement party." Overcome with emotion, I became completely hysterical. "Ryan, you're my boyfriend, my fiancé. Do you have any idea how long I spent planning this engagement party? You can leave any other day you want, but not today." I stood in front of the door, blocking his way. Ryan frowned. I knew that was the sign he was getting angry. "Emily, look at yourself. Do you know how crazy you look right now? What's the difference between you and a mad woman? Lauren fell and got hurt. She's just a young girl with no one to rely on. I'm her sponsor. What's wrong with helping her? When did you become so cold and lacking in empathy? You weren't like this before." His dark eyes stared at me, filled with a coldness sharp enough to pierce right through my heart. "Don't forget to make arrangements for the guests. I'm leaving now." With that, he brushed away the arm I had stretched across the doorway and walked out of the hotel without looking back. I didn't notice that the phone in my pocket flashed a few times. More messages from Lauren. Standing in front of the mirror, I stared at the woman reflected back at me. Dressed elegantly, makeup perfectly done, but face twisted in pain. Word by word, I said to my reflection, "Emily and Ryan are completely over, starting today." It was as if I was stating a fact, or maybe warning myself. After Ryan left, I composed myself and graciously escorted the guests out. I spent a long time calming my parents down before finally sending them off from the hotel. Along the way, there were certainly a few looks, some scornful, some amused, but I chose to ignore them all. My family background was respectable. I'd always carried myself with pride in our social circles, and after I got together with Ryan, few people dared to cross me. But because of that, I also made quite a few enemies. As I changed out of my gown and prepared to leave the hotel, a woman stopped me. She and I had never gotten along. Back in school, we competed for the top spot in class. Later, we both fell for Ryan, but in the end, he chose me. Ever since, she never missed a chance to sneer at me whenever she could. Well, Emily, look at you now. Pathetic, she mocked. Looks like Ryan finally got tired of playing with you. I told you, didn't I? Someone like you was bound to be dumped sooner or later. I gave her a cold glance. That's still better than you. At least I didn't throw myself at him and get rejected. She huffed angrily. People may have been scared of you before, but I'm not. You think everyone wants to live like you? Always circling around a man like a dog? I've already taken over my family's project and made 100 million. What about you? After all these years, it's clear as day. You're still stupid enough to think Ryan actually loved you. She laughed. That's a joke. You were just the most presentable backup out of the women chasing him. If someone younger and prettier came along, do you really think he'd still be with you? She looked at me with smug satisfaction and added, Don't tell me I'm right. Did Ryan really cheat on you? I can't believe this is actually happening to you, Emily. I felt a flash of anger. What does any of this have to do with you? Nothing, she said, shrugging, but watching you miserable makes me happy. I pushed past her without a word and walked forward, expressionless. Along the way, I overheard Ryan's friends muttering behind my back. She didn't even argue just now. Guess Ryan really dumped her. Good, I've had enough of her stuck-up, deadpan face. Always acting like some fake noble saint. Let's bet on how long it'll take before she starts clinging to Ryan again, like a loyal puppy. I say 3 days tops. She didn't even care when he was seeing B-list actresses before. This time won't be any different. Listening to all their sneering, my heart felt like shattered glass, crushed into powder. To Ryan, I was just a convenient plan B, someone he could toss bits of affection to whenever he had time. Affection like you'd give a household pet. My pride and self-respect had been worn down long ago, buried under Ryan's constant neglect and hot and cold affection. I didn't defend myself because the truth was, I had been that woman. I used to think that if I just kept giving in, kept lowering my standards, maybe he'd finally show me the love I wanted. I kept telling myself, I'm the official one. No matter how many other women he sees, my place won't change. But love doesn't work like that. Love isn't staying home, doing his laundry, and throwing my whole heart into someone who barely looks back. It isn't tolerating everything around him and letting his friends ridicule me. It isn't dealing with his side flings while pretending to be happy at public events. Love should be mutual. It should be respect. It should be independence. Word about what happened at the engagement party eventually made its way back to Ryan. A week after the whole fiasco, he called me. I didn't know they said such awful things that day. Don't be mad, okay? He said. Emily, I bought that pink diamond you liked. I had it made into a ring. When we meet next time, take it as an apology gift. But Emily, he continued, I do need to say something. There were so many people at the hotel. How could you treat my friends like that? What if the paparazzi had caught it? How embarrassing would that be? Where would that leave my reputation? If they mocked you, couldn't you have just tolerated it for a bit? You could have come to me after, and I'd definitely have stood up for you. Just look at Lauren, so gentle, so well-mannered. How can I feel at ease marrying someone like you when you act like that? Anyway, forget it. My dad said we should redo the engagement party next month. I promise I'll give you a ceremony even more luxurious and grand than last time. Lauren. Again with Lauren. Ever since a few months ago, when Ryan started sponsoring Lauren, he started mentioning her name more and more. At first occasionally, then gradually more frequently. Her name began to appear at our dinner table, in our text messages, and even in our bedroom. Ryan and I had been together for 3 years. Of course I knew what it looked like when he started falling for someone else. But after loving him for so long, I wasn't willing to let go just like that. I kept telling myself, maybe things would get better after the engagement. Maybe once we were engaged, he'd finally settle down. But I didn't expect that Ryan would give up our engagement party for Lauren. It felt like he slapped me across the face in front of everyone. Holding the phone in silence, I finally said, Ryan, we're over. I told you, when you walked out of our engagement party, that was the end of us. Ryan's voice suddenly turned cold. Emily, you know how I am. Don't joke around like this. I'll pretend I never heard that. I'm not joking, I said. I'm serious. I'm not gonna cling to you anymore. You don't have to worry, I won't have anything to do with you again. Emily, he said, voice tinged with threat. Aren't you afraid that if I get engaged to someone else, you'll be left with nothing? I let out a bitter laugh. Ryan, since when have you ever lacked women? Even when you were with me, you still had your hookups with young models, your one-night stands. So go ahead, engage whoever you want. And with that, I hung up without hesitation and immediately blocked all his contacts. If we were going to break up, then it needed to be a clean, complete cut. But why did it hurt so much? I lay down on the couch as tears silently streamed down my face. My heart felt like it was being squeezed tight in my chest. Every beat was painful, each throb reminding me of what I had lost. I knew why Ryan had said those things, because he was sure I wouldn't leave. After all, we had met back in college, on a night I returned to campus late and was cornered by a group of thugs. Ryan had stepped in and saved me. He appeared in my life like some kind of knight in shining armor. I fell for him at first sight and quickly became emotionally dependent on him. I tolerated his cheating even after we got together. He had always taken that for granted. He thought if he coaxed me a little, I'd calm down and take him back, like I always did. He believed I couldn't live without him, and everyone else thought so too. But this time, I didn't want to lie to myself anymore. I used to think, it'll get better after the engagement. But a person's worst habits don't just disappear. Only I kept convincing myself, day after day, that things would improve. That maybe, once we were married, or once we had a child to tie him down, things would change. I was becoming exactly the kind of self-pitying woman I used to despise. A month passed after the breakup, and Ryan didn't reach out once. It was like he was deliberately trying to teach me a lesson, trying to make me jealous, anxious, and desperate enough to come crawling back. That month, rumors about him never stopped circulating in our circles. He was supposedly seeing some young model one week, a small-time celebrity the next. Every woman by his side was delicate and dazzling like a flower. I kept hearing not-so-subtle hints from his friends, nudging me to reach out to him and patch things up. But I stayed silent. Without me in the picture, Ryan and Lauren seemed to become completely inseparable. Lauren started posting about their daily activities on social media. She hadn't even graduated yet, but she'd already become Ryan's personal assistant, a position other girls envied. One day, she was at a luxury gala with him. The next, he was spending the whole night with her during a thunderstorm. Then the day after that, he was taking her to an industry summit filled with high-profile elites. At this point, if you wanted to know Ryan's schedule, all you had to do was check Lauren's social media. Meanwhile, my chat history with Lauren remained empty. Except for one message she sent when she first added me on the day of our engagement. Do you believe I could send one message and make him ditch you to come to me? I brushed it off at the time, thinking it was just some immature outburst from a girl throwing a tantrum. I never thought I'd end up falling so hard because of it. Only then did I realize, in Ryan's world, if he ever had to choose between two women, I would always be the one left behind. I didn't want to be someone's backup plan anymore. I didn't want to keep standing still, waiting for him to abandon me again. I sat at home, staring out the window at the lush green outside, and suddenly, I had the urge to go out, just walk around and see the world I had missed. All these years, I had stubbornly clung to my love for Ryan, unwilling to take a single step away. But now, the love was gone, and I knew it was time for me to go too. After I told my brother about my plan, it didn't even take him an hour to decide I should go to Anber to help our company open up the market there. Does it really have to be me? I asked, clinging to the doorframe with both hands, giving him a pitiful look, then glancing toward our parents. I said I wanted to travel, not work. Mom looked like she was about to step in. Liam, she's not doing well emotionally right now. Why are you assigning her work like this? What kind of brother are you? Some kind of taskmaster? But my brother sighed and said, the company needs to enter the Anber market. I can't leave the country for half a year. Besides, I'm getting older. If Emily doesn't go, then who will? He looked at me with a helpless expression. Emily's always been more capable than me since we were kids. For years, the only reason our family business hasn't taken a step forward is because she refused to get involved, because of Ryan. This time, no matter what, you're not backing out. You said you wanted to clear your head? Then this is perfect. Go to Amber and let work distract you. Better than moping around all day, crying over that guy. So I gave in and boarded the flight, dragging my suitcase with me on a long journey to Amber, alone. As soon as I settled into my seat and stowed my luggage, I slipped on an eye mask, ready to sleep. Emily? A clear, deep male voice cut through my thoughts, making me pull down the mask. Standing beside my seat was a tall man wearing a dark mask. His eyes were almond-shaped, bright and charming, and held a familiar glint. When he saw me trying to place him, he pulled his mask down. It's me. Seeing his handsome and striking face, I was genuinely surprised. Ethan? You're heading to Amber too? Ethan Pierce smiled and nodded. I got an offer from a university there. I'll be teaching as a professor. And you? I never expected to run into you here, I said. Last I saw on your feed, you were getting engaged. My smile froze slightly. I didn't know how to explain the disaster that was my engagement party. After a pause, I said, there were some unexpected things. We broke up. I'm heading to Amber to help my family's company with a new project. Ethan picked up on the mood shift and didn't push for more. Well, that means we'll be seeing each other often in Amber. I smiled and nodded firmly. I had met Ethan in our college theater club. He was the club president, handsome, talented, and the natural pick to play the male lead in our productions. Back then, we connected deeply through literature and collaborated on several plays that received great acclaim. I still remember one night after our first original play debuted successfully. The club went out to celebrate, and when everyone got drunk, Ethan walked me home. The sky was full of stars. We walked slowly, talking about our favorite writers. We were so close, and the faint cedar scent on him made me feel lightheaded. That night, I truly believed we were soulmates. I could feel my heart tilting toward him. I had thought he would confess to me soon, but after I fell for Ryan, I poured all my energy into that relationship. I never picked up the pen again, and my bond with Ethan slowly faded. We didn't see each other again. Now, meeting him here again on a flight, looking into those familiar eyes, I suddenly felt something stir deep in my empty chest. My heart was beating again, strong and clear. During my first week in Amber, Ryan called. I didn't want to answer, but the calls just kept coming. It felt like he wouldn't stop unless I picked up. When I finally answered, there was silence on the other end. He seemed to be waiting for me to speak first. I had just arrived in Amber and work was already piling up. With no response from his end, I grew impatient. If you're not going to say anything, I'm hanging up. He finally spoke. His voice was hoarse and slightly slurred, like he'd been drinking. Emily? It's been over a month. Have you had your fun yet? You've never gone this long without coming back to me. Don't tell me Amber's so desperate for people that they had to send you there for every holiday and break. You should be back by now. I rolled my eyes. Ryan, what does that even mean? You think I'm playing around? I never once played games with you. Whether Amber is short-staffed or not, what does that have to do with you? You don't get to control where I go. I had just arrived in Amber, and the overwhelming amount of work had already started to fray my nerves. I didn't mean to sound so harsh, but my tone came out sharp anyway. Can you not talk to me like that? Ryan snapped. It's been this long, and you're still angry? I apologized, bought you the pink diamond, said I'd reschedule the engagement party. What more do you want? Why are you always so unreasonable? His voice turned harsh, frustration bleeding through every word. You ran off abroad without even telling me, and now you spend your days surrounded by men. Do you even act like a woman anymore? What happened to your upbringing? You weren't like this before. I let out a cold laugh, stunned by his audacity. What right did Ryan have to demand that I stay home like a bitter housewife after we broke up? That I cook his meals and warm his bed as if nothing ever happened? This is what I'm like now, Ryan. Is this why you called? Just to scold me? What does it mean to act like a woman, huh? And while you're at it, maybe ask your dead mother if she fit your definition. Or are you forgetting that everyone in our circle knows your dad was the one who married up into her family? If your idea of a woman is someone like Lauren, then I'm sorry. You'll never have me. Ryan was livid. I called because I wanted to have a serious talk with you. I've already booked the hotel for the 2nd of next month. We'll redo the engagement party. Just come back from Amber, and whatever you said today, I'll pretend I never heard it. But once we're engaged, I don't want you doing such public-facing work anymore. I'll settle down too. Let's just move on from everything that's happened. My anger surged so fast, it felt like it exploded from the top of my head. You think it's that easy? Just move on because you say so? Let me make it very clear. You can plan whatever engagement you want, with anyone you want. You and I are done. If you're that desperate to get married, go propose to Lauren. She seems more than eager. With that, I hung up the phone, blocked his number again, and powered my phone off in one motion. Just as I was starting to calm down, there was a sudden knock at the door. I opened it, and there stood Ethan. He was wearing casual home clothes, but only had 2 buttons fastened. The defined lines of his abs moved faintly with every gesture. His pale chest was partly exposed, a sight that made me involuntarily swallow hard. Inwardly, I scolded him for being so casual. It was only after coming to Amber that I realized we were actually neighbors. Ethan gave me his usual warm smile. I tried calling you earlier, but your phone was off, so I came by. Are you busy tonight? Not really. Why? I heard from the students at school that there's a fireworks festival at the beach tonight. The mention of fireworks instantly lit up my eyes. Really? Where? At Coralstone Beach. I thought we could grab dinner first, and then I'll drive us there. I nodded quickly. Sure, see you tonight. He smiled. Tonight it is. After dinner, we went to Coralstone Beach together. We walked side by side along the soft sand, surrounded by other spectators. Before long, a crisp sound split the night air, and a firework shot into the sky, exploding like a colorful butterfly and transforming the dark canvas above into a brilliant, shimmering painting. Ethan turned his head occasionally to glance at me, a quiet, unreadable emotion flickering in his eyes. The fireworks lit up his face, casting a warm glow over his sharp features. I felt my cheeks grow warm. He leaned in slightly and asked in a low voice, "Do you remember the first time we met? It was on a night just like this, with fireworks everywhere. You looked just as captivating back then as you do now." My face flushed deeper. Of course I remember. It was my freshman year. You pulled me into the theater club that very night. Ethan let out a bright, carefree laugh. Then I guess you should thank me for discovering your talent. I didn't say anything, just smiled. But inside, I silently agreed. If it hadn't been for Ethan, I might never have realized my passion or talent for directing. We fell quiet and a strange tension hung between us. Then, Ethan suddenly stopped walking and turned to face me. Without even noticing, we had gotten close, so close I could feel his breath. He looked down at me, his gaze intense. His gaze was full of tenderness and anticipation. "Emily, the fireworks tonight are beautiful," Ethan said softly. "But you know what? In my eyes, you're more dazzling than any of them." My heart fluttered. "Can I take that as you confessing to me?" "Yes," he replied without hesitation. "Actually, I've wanted to say this since 4 years ago. Emily, would you be my girlfriend?" My heart began to race. I looked up and met Ethan's eyes, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. I could feel his warm breath, the quiet emotion in his eyes, so clear it didn't even need to be spoken aloud. The words yes almost escaped my lips, but a sliver of hesitation held me back. After 3 painful years with Ryan, I wasn't sure I had the courage to love again. I don't know if I can give you my whole heart right now," I said carefully. "You know how my last relationship ended." Ethan gently cut me off. "It's okay, Emily. Really. I don't care about your past relationship. The only thing I care about is you. Who you were doesn't matter. What matters is our future. I missed my chance with you once. I'm not gonna miss it again." My hand instinctively tightened around the corner of Ethan's shirt, as if confirming that his confession was real. "Then, please take good care of me, boyfriend," I said with a smile. I was willing to give Ethan a chance. More than that, I was willing to give myself a chance. The booming of fireworks overhead became the only sound between us. A subtle air of intimacy surrounded us. Slowly, Ethan leaned in closer. Then his lips gently met mine. In that moment, it felt like an electric current coursed through my entire body. His arm wrapped gently around my waist, pulling me closer. I responded to his kiss, slowly at first, then with growing warmth. Our heartbeats synced in the embrace, steady and strong. Later, when we returned home, I saw that Ethan had posted something on social media. A rare occurrence for him. The caption read, "After all the twists and turns, we finally got our happy ending." The photo was of us kissing beneath the fireworks earlier that night. Members from our old college theater club flooded the comments section, teasing and celebrating. One of them wrote, "Ethan finally got the girl after all these years. Our club beauty is officially taken." I scrolled through the comments, my ears burning and my cheeks flushing all the way to my temples. Then my best friend from college, Grace, called me directly. The second I answered, her squealing voice nearly pierced my eardrums. "Ah, Emily, you and Ethan are finally together? You don't know how hard I shipped you two back in college. When you got engaged to someone else recently, I was so disappointed, but look at this plot twist. My OTP finally came true." Her excitement made me laugh. "We were just friends back in college, Grace. What were you even shipping?" "Come on," she exclaimed. "You were the club goddess, he was the club heartthrob, campus legends. Half the school wanted you two together. If it weren't for..." Her voice trailed off for a second before picking up with renewed cheer. "But hey, now you've escaped the suffering and found your new beginning. I'm so happy for you, Emily." After we hung up, Ethan was sitting on the sofa. He pulled me gently into his arms from behind. I leaned back into his embrace, surrounded by his warmth and strength. The faint cedar scent on his skin was still the same, still comforting. He lowered his head to kiss my hair and asked, "What did Grace say?" I smiled in his arms. "She said people were already hoping we'd end up together back in college. She never imagined we really would." Ethan chuckled softly. "Actually, I wanted to confess to you on your 20th birthday, but before I could, you met Ryan." I turned to face him, looking into his gentle eyes. Then I leaned in and kissed him, cutting off the rest of what he was going to say. After the kiss, my face flushed crimson. Ethan laughed lightly, cupped the back of my head, and kissed me again. The kiss started off gentle, but gradually deepened into something more passionate and intense. Ethan's hands slowly moved upward, his fingers tenderly brushing through my hair. I wrapped my arms tightly around his neck, responding to every movement he made. The atmosphere between us grew increasingly sweet, charged with an intimate warmth. When the kiss ended, Ethan gazed at me with dark, smoldering eyes and gently wiped my lips with his thumb. I shot him a playful glare. "My lips are all swollen now." He didn't say a word. Instead, he leaned in and kissed me again. That night, every corner of my home was filled with the lingering sweetness and intimacy between us. But it wasn't just our friends who saw the post. Ryan's friends did too. That evening, Ryan was at a casual get-together with a few of his usual crowd. He sat there, a cigarette dangling from his lips, eyes slightly tired. Among the group was someone who had once known Ethan from back in the day. When he saw Ethan's post on social media, he passed it around. The group exchanged looks, unsure of what to say. Ryan noticed the sudden tension in the room and frowned. "What's with all of you?" he asked. One of them, trying to sound casual, spoke up. "Hey Ryan, I just saw Ethan Pierce's new post. You know that friend of Emily's from college drama club?" At the sound of my name, Ryan's frown deepened. "So what if you saw his post? Aren't you guys friends on social? Isn't it normal?" Another guy who hadn't yet grasped what was happening piped up. Ryan didn't respond. He just exhaled a puff of smoke and downed the glass of liquor in front of him. His mind drifted to the argument we had earlier that day over the phone. Ryan genuinely believed he had been wronged. He'd already lashed out at the friends who gossiped behind my back. He'd gone out of his way to book a more extravagant venue. He'd meticulously planned a flawless new engagement ceremony to make up for the last disaster. What more could I possibly be unhappy about? He had even tolerated my jealousy over Lauren, which he thought was completely uncalled for. In his mind, Lauren was just a college freshman who had been harassed by a man while working in a restaurant. He had saved her, just like he once saved me. Feeling pity for her, he gave her a job. What was so wrong with that? It's not like Foster Group couldn't afford one extra hire. And that day when Lauren fell from upstairs, if it hadn't been for quick medical attention, she could have been permanently disabled. Did I expect her to limp around a restaurant washing dishes for the rest of her life? Ryan couldn't understand why I had changed so much. I had been harassed once too. How could I be so cold toward someone like Lauren? Yes, he admitted that when he first saw Lauren's youthful face and innocent charm, he felt something stir. But he'd dated actresses and models before, and I had never gotten upset. Why was I suddenly throwing tantrums now? He remembered Lauren saying he had spoiled me too much. Maybe she was right. Maybe I did need to be put in my place. Then the friend hesitantly added, "Ryan, Ethan's post. It's official. He and Emily made it official. He even posted a photo of them kissing." The room fell dead silent. No one dared to breathe. "Give me the phone," Ryan said coldly, eyes darkening as he stared down the guy who had spoken. The man hesitated, then slowly handed his phone over. Inwardly, he was already regretting bringing it up. Ryan stared at the screen for a long moment. Then, in a sudden burst of rage, he hurled the phone to the ground with a loud crash. Everyone in the room jumped. The guy mourned his phone silently for a second. "I'm done for tonight," Ryan said in a low, sharp voice. "Not in the mood." And with that, he stood up and left the private room without another word. But that photo, me and Ethan kissing, kept looping in Ryan's mind. How could I move on so fast? Had I really just given up on him? Ryan didn't want to believe it. But ever since our phone call earlier that day, he hadn't been able to reach me again. He'd gone to my house, but my parents and brother all refused to give him any way to contact me. It wasn't until he felt a dull ache in his clenched hand that he realized his fingernails had cut into his palm, drawing blood. He wiped the blood onto his expensive suit jacket without a second thought. If I had been there, I would have scolded him, told him about all the bacteria that could enter through the wound. Back when I was still by his side, Ryan had never imagined a day would come when he needed me this badly. A bitter smile tugged at his lips. How long was I going to stay mad this time? But while Ryan was still thinking of me, I had already spent more than a year in Anber, successfully bringing the local branch of my family's company into steady operation. The day we completed our first major project happened to be Christmas. Ethan and I made a reservation at a restaurant to celebrate. Since being with him, I had experienced a kind of love I never knew before: respect, patience, tenderness, and genuine care. When I fell ill with a fever, he stayed by my side all night, monitoring my temperature, applying cool compresses, feeding me medicine, gently wiping my forehead. He didn't leave until I started to recover. As the company began to find its footing, I told him I still wanted to pursue my dream of becoming a director. Ethan pulled every string he could, introducing me to several directors and screenwriters in Anber, even asking them to mentor me. Ryan had wanted me to be a delicate, obedient girl, soft and lovely like a flower in a vase. But Ethan reminded me who I truly was: an independent, confident woman who could stand on her own. That Christmas night, in a softly lit restaurant, Ethan proposed. "Emily, every day with you has been the happiest of my life," he said. "I want you to be my wife, to give me the right to take care of you, love you, and share a lifetime together." Dressed in a sleek suit, he got down on one knee, looking up at me with eyes full of warmth. "Emily Summers, will you marry me?" My hands started to tremble, my heartbeat thundered in my ears. For a moment, the whole world seemed to fade away, leaving only Ethan and me in our little bubble. This time, I didn't hesitate. The moment I nodded, tears welled up and spilled from my eyes. I reached out my left hand, trying to steady my voice despite the trembling. "I will." 3 months later, Ethan and I held a small wedding in Anber. No grand banquet, no massive guest list, just the people closest to us, gathered to witness our love. That evening, after showering, I sat on the couch browsing my phone. Ethan stepped out of the bathroom, a towel wrapped loosely around his waist. Broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and clearly defined abs that hadn't faded despite his long hours at work. Beads of water still glistened on his skin, sliding along the muscles of his torso. His lower half was mostly obscured, but just visible enough to stir something inside me. I suddenly felt thirsty. Even after more than a year of being together, and despite how honest we'd been with each other in every way, every time I saw his perfectly sculpted body, I couldn't help but get a little flustered. Ethan walked over, scooped me up in his arms, and gently laid me down on the bed. "Emily, Tonight is our wedding night," he whispered, smiling down at me. "Let's go until morning." His breath brushed against my ear, making me squirm from the tickling warmth. My face turned bright red. "Depends on how well you perform," I teased. Ethan chuckled softly, then pinned me gently beneath him. His kisses trailed downward, growing hotter with each touch. Our breaths tangled, our bodies melted into one another as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon. What I didn't expect was that Ryan would somehow find out where I was staying in Anber. When I opened the door and saw him standing there, I froze. "Emily, I finally found you," he said, disheveled and breathless. He stepped forward and pulled me into a hug. I pushed him away forcefully. "Ryan, what the hell? How did you even find this place?" He didn't answer. "Doesn't matter how. It's been over a year. Don't you miss me at all? Come back with me. Please." He gripped my shoulders tightly. "Let go of me," I snapped, shaking him off. "Why would I go back with you? We broke up." "I never agreed to that," he said, voice rising. "I didn't agree to break up. Nothing ever happened between me and Lauren, I swear. I'm innocent, Emily. Please. If you want, I'll rip my chest open and show you my heart." "You don't have to explain anything about you and Lauren to me," I said, my tone flat. "And we don't need your agreement to break up. That was my choice." I looked straight into his eyes. "You know what, Ryan? Your explanation is too late. This wasn't love." Running away from our engagement party to find Lauren, knowing full well I'd be humiliated, you still did it. Flirting with models and actresses at parties, knowing I'd be the subject of ridicule, you still did it. You stood by while your friends mocked me, belittled me, and pushed boundaries, and you did nothing. You knew what they were doing, you just didn't care. You didn't love me, Ryan. That's why you let it all happen. My voice cracked, but I forced myself to hold back the tears. Thinking back on everything I went through, I couldn't believe I wasted years of my life on someone like Ryan. "I'm sorry, Emily," he said hoarsely. "I just saw Lauren and thought of the old you." He staggered slightly as he spoke. "I'll fire her the second I get back, okay? I'll cut ties with all those so-called friends. Of course I love you. I only love you. Look, I even brought our engagement ring. Let me put it on you, please." Ryan dropped to his knees, voice trembling, his eyes filled with desperation as he looked up at me. But all I felt was emptiness. All those years together, and not once had I ever heard him say he loved me. If it had been the old me, I might have melted on the spot and forgiven him no matter what he'd done. But now it was too late. 2 years had passed. What was the point of saying all this now? "It's over, Ryan," I said calmly, lifting my left hand to show him the ring on my finger. "I'm already married." It was like he'd been struck by lightning. He stood there, frozen. "You're lying. Emily, you're just trying to upset me. I don't believe it." I turned and walked into the bedroom, retrieved our marriage certificate, and held up the 2 crimson-red booklets in front of his face. "These are our legal marriage certificates. See for yourself. Believe it now?" Ryan slowly stood up. "Emily, come on. Stop joking. This has to be fake." He suddenly reached out and cupped the back of my head, forcefully pressing his lips against mine. The coldness of his touch made my stomach churn. I nearly vomited from the nausea. "It's real," I said, yanking myself free and slapping him hard across the face. "Are you awake now?" My face was pale, and suddenly a sharp ache tugged at my lower abdomen. I was not in good shape. My hair was messy, my eyes red and bloodshot. I looked like a wild animal on the verge of snapping. Ryan didn't dare push me any further. He stared at me for a long moment, then turned and staggered out the door. After he left, the pain in my abdomen hadn't gone away. My hands trembling, I called Ethan. He arrived faster than I could have imagined, driving me straight to the hospital. "Congratulations, you're 8 weeks pregnant," the doctor said with a smile. "Make sure to rest and avoid strong emotional stress." I touched my belly in amazement, my heart instantly lifting. Just like that, the awful encounter at home vanished from my thoughts. I was already looking forward to meeting this new little life. Months later, I gave birth to our child. Ethan named him Caleb Pierce. We called him Bun as his nickname. By the time Bun was almost 3 years old, the film I had both written and directed was finally finished and ready for release. After securing a distribution deal with theaters in Anber, Ethan and I decided to bring Bun back to the States with us. When we landed, Bun and I waited in a quiet corner of the airport while Ethan went to collect our checked luggage. I stood idly, glancing around the terminal, when I suddenly spotted Ryan near the arrivals gate. He looked anxious, clearly waiting for someone. His new assistant stood nearby. After I left the country, Ryan had finally begun taking over his family's company. But his investment instincts were terrible, and to be honest, he wasn't particularly competent. Under his leadership, nearly every project the firm touched ended in financial loss, and the whole organization was filled with constant complaints. Eventually, after returning from Amber, he did fire Lauren. But by then she had already been expelled from her university due to excessive absences. Without a degree, she struggled to find work and was rejected everywhere she went. Desperate, she eventually turned on Ryan. She leaked 2 major collaboration projects that Foster Group had been about to close, handing them over to a rival corporation. Just like that, Ryan lost 2 high-profit deals that had been within arm's reach. Foster Group, once seen as a towering empire, became little more than an empty shell, glossy on the outside, crumbling within. This time, it was Ryan's father who had to personally step in and assign him a new project. Ryan's father had demanded he secure the upcoming partnership at all costs. So the mighty CEO himself had to lower his status and personally show up at the airport to greet their potential collaborators. The moment I spotted him, he saw me too. "Emily," Ryan called out, striding toward me. He grabbed my wrist and demanded, "You've been hiding from me for 5 years, finally willing to come back now?" I rolled my eyes internally and was just about to respond when my little hero piped up. "Mommy," Bun said loudly, "this weird man is being rude. He just came up and grabbed you. I'm gonna tell Daddy, he'll beat him up." Ryan's gaze dropped and finally noticed Bun standing beside me. His face immediately lit up. "You're pregnant? This must be our child, right? I knew it. When you said you were married, you were lying. You still love me, don't you?" But as he took in Bun's height, his expression faltered. "Wait, why's our kid still so short if he's 5? Did you two not eat properly abroad?" "It's okay, once you're back home we'll get him all nourished again." Bun crossed his arms and snapped back indignantly. "You're the short and ugly one, mister. I'm not even 3 yet. This is a perfectly normal height." 3. Ryan's hopeful expression instantly darkened. I smiled faintly and shook his hand off. "Who told you he's your son? Didn't I already say I'm married? We broke up 5 years ago. How could I have a child with you who's not even 3 years old?" With every word I said, his face grew colder. He tried to reach for me again. "Enough, Emily, don't overact." I stepped back, and just as I did, I fell into Ethan's arms. He had just returned with our luggage. Ethan smiled, but there was no warmth in his eyes. "Mr. Foster, what exactly do you think you're doing to my wife?" Ryan stared at him in disbelief, still wanting to argue, but his assistant stepped in, whispering urgently in his ear, "Mr. Daniels is arriving soon. Vice President, that man doesn't look wealthy. Let's wrap the deal first, talk to Miss Summers afterward." Ryan didn't say anything else. He shot us one last long look, then turned and walked away. "You okay?" Ethan asked gently. I smiled. "I'm fine." Bun puffed out his chest proudly. "I protected Mommy today. Aren't you gonna praise me?" "You were amazing," I said, leaning down to kiss his chubby cheek. When we began negotiating with domestic theaters, as expected, we faced immense resistance. Foster Group had once dominated the film industry in our country. Though the company had lost much of its worth thanks to Ryan's disastrous decisions, it still held enough sway that many were reluctant to cross his parents. I visited countless theaters and PR firms seeking collaboration. But once they heard my name, they all turned me down without hesitation. After being rejected yet again, I bumped into Ryan right outside another company's office. He blocked my path. "Emily, I've thought it through. Even if you're married, it doesn't matter. You know how I am. As long as you divorce Ethan and come back to me, I won't care that you had a child with him. And if we get back together, I'll take care of all the marketing and distribution for your film. I'll even use all of Foster's resources to support any future projects you want to make." I stared at him, a wave of disgust rising in my chest. "Ryan, even if you handed me the stars themselves, I wouldn't go back." "I know you've been wronged in the past," he said, trying to sound sincere. "I'll treat you right this time." I shook my head with a soft laugh. Ryan, it's been 5 years. Everything that happened between us, it's like a distant dream now. I've stopped caring. I don't believe you, he said, his voice trembling. There's no way you just stopped loving me. Talking to him suddenly felt exhausting. Ryan, we've been broken up for years. We've now been apart longer than we were ever together. Believe it or not, that's your choice. But I'm leaving. I turned and walked away, not bothering to look back at his bloodshot eyes. Time had passed. Seeing Ryan again stirred nothing in me. Even the 3 years we spent together had begun to blur in my memory. Just when I was about to give up hope on getting theater support, Foster's biggest competitor, Lumiere Pictures, reached out with a collaboration offer. Almost like out of spite, Ryan rushed to release a film from his own company to compete with mine, deliberately picking the same release window. But the project had been rushed and sloppy. Ryan had blown most of the budget on marketing, leaving barely anything for post-production. The quality suffered terribly. Right before the release, Ryan called me. "Emily," he said, "if you come back now, there's still time." "What I can offer you," Ryan said, "Ethan never will." I suddenly laughed. "Ryan, I actually feel sorry for you. Is love just a business transaction in your eyes? Do you love him so much that you're willing to give up a film you worked so hard on?" His voice rose, edged with frustration. "What do you even see in him?" "My love for Ethan and my love for filmmaking have never been in conflict," I said calmly. "He respects me. He supports me. He's 10,000 times the man you are. And even if I weren't with him, I would never, ever go back to you. I already hit the wall once. I'm not doing it again." Looking back, Ryan and I had only ever ended up together because we were too much alike, stubborn, obsessive, armed with sharp edges and sharper words. But the jagged parts of me had been softened over the years by Ethan's gentleness, while Ryan had only grown more extreme with every failure. When my film was released, it was met with overwhelming praise. Nearly every screening was sold out. Meanwhile, the film Ryan had dumped all his money into marketing for, one rushed out just to compete with mine, was torn apart by critics and audiences alike. The hype didn't match the quality, and backlash hit him like a tidal wave. That reckless gamble pushed Foster Group to the brink of bankruptcy. Ryan finally set aside his arrogance and began chasing investors himself. But his earlier arrogance had burned too many bridges. No one wanted to work with him anymore. The companies that did show interest, he turned his nose up at. That was when his sister Rachel returned from abroad. Ever since their mother passed, she hadn't set foot back in the country. But now she returned in full force, swiftly taking over Foster Group and initiating drastic reform. The toxic figures Ryan had embedded into the company were all removed without mercy. She even had their father sent to a care facility, cutting him off completely. And as for Ryan, the man who nearly drove the company into the ground, Rachel didn't hold back. She exiled him to Africa under the guise of developing new markets. In reality, it was a death sentence in corporate terms. After all, Rachel had gone abroad years ago because she lost a power struggle with him. This was her revenge. Before he left, Ryan came to my home looking for me. I didn't see him. That day, rain poured from the sky. He knelt in front of my house, holding a bouquet of hydrangeas. In his pocket was the engagement ring we never used. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered apology after apology, begging for just one glance from me. My brother stood at the window watching him, his expression unreadable. If Ryan had known this day would come, why didn't he act sooner? "Men are always like this," I muttered absently. From the side, Bun chimed in with his sweet, innocent voice. "Not me. I love Mommy the most." His words sent laughter echoing through the house. I was trying on dresses when Rachel called me. My film had just been nominated for an award, and I was preparing to walk the red carpet at the film festival. Rachel's voice on the other end was hesitant, but I made it clear. Whatever happened between Ryan and me was long over. Not even 2 months later, news arrived that Ryan had died in a conflict in Africa. A strange sense of melancholy stirred in my chest, but I didn't let myself dwell on it. On the night of the award ceremony, the hall shimmered with gold. I stood on the red carpet with Ethan at my side and Bun holding my hand. Cameras clicked like crazy, and reporters praised how the three of us looked like stars ourselves. As night fell and the lights dimmed inside the grand auditorium, the atmosphere grew electric with anticipation. My heart pounded like a drum in my chest as I stared at the stage. For 2 years, I had poured everything I had into this film, every shot, every line of dialogue. Time slowed to a crawl. Each second felt like an hour. I clutched Ethan's hand without thinking. He gently squeezed mine in reassurance. My eyes stung, and when I blinked, tears rolled down my cheeks, ruining the makeup that had taken 3 hours to apply. I felt like I was standing in the eye of a storm, with every spotlight and expectation resting squarely on me, a first-time director. Finally, the host took the stage and began announcing the nominees for Best Director. This year's winner, the host said, drawing out each word, is a first-time director. The room held its breath. I shut my eyes, 1,000 thoughts flashing through my mind. Emily Summers. I couldn't believe what I heard. My blood surged like fire in my veins. The hall erupted with applause and cheers. Dizzy, I opened my eyes and saw the brilliant lights and the smiling faces around me. Tears spilled over again as I stood up, wrapping my arms tightly around Ethan. "Thank you," I choked out. "I love you." He smiled and gently nudged me toward the stage, where flowers and celebration awaited. I walked the red carpet leading to the podium, each step strong and steady. I knew I would remember this moment for the rest of my life. Standing under the stage lights, holding the award in my hands, I fought back more tears as I gave my thanks to my husband, my family, my friends. Through blurred vision, I looked down and saw Ethan and Bun smiling up at me. On this long road of life, with them beside me, I knew I would never be alone again.